Hey everyone, welcome back. Um, well, I am in. If you're gonna go to Florida, uh, I guess one of the places you have to stop by is in Miami. And so here I am, everyone, in beautiful Miami. Look at that. Let's see if it gets in focus here a little bit. There you go, a little cruise ship going by. My goodness. And so yeah, I'm here. I'm in Florida. I'm very real. Very real. So there you go, everyone. Um, I'm going to be trading, and let's see what happens. All right. All right. Bye. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This episode of Bitcoin Trade. If you haven't seen the video I put in front of this, anybody going to Florida, you didn't really go to Florida until you went to Miami. So I can tell you that I'm gonna really enjoy Florida and Miami. I'm obviously back in Houston now, but I have to admit, the weather is warmer in Miami. Um, I really enjoyed being in the city and the atmosphere. I like it so much that I might take a physical residence out in Miami, just because it's really a beautiful city and it's warm. So for those of you who didn't believe I was in Florida or in Miami, I was. So anyways, let me go to it. This episode I'm going to do a quick chart analysis. And, so far, if you see the prices right here, you see some of them are starting to collapse a little bit from where they were, I guess, yesterday. Not too much, but you'll see that it's ever since here, the announcement of basically the auctioning of all those bitcoins, you'll see that it's been a steady decline here. And so it's taken a bounce right here, moved up, come back down, and it's kind of bouncing around. I think it's going to probably bounce up a little bit or maybe even break down further. Depends what's going to happen. But based on what's going on here, I can only assume there's been some heavy selling off, obviously, from this period point and now. And this little buyback could be a buyback period, because if you sold off here and you bought back in here, you basically essentially gained in bitcoins. You may not have gained in money, but you gained in bitcoins. So this episode I'm going to talk about that a little bit further, and arbitrage a little bit, because a lot of people are talking about how Bitcoin's the worst investment of the year, worse than the ruble, second to the Ukraine money, and on a perspective of, if you just looked at it, that'd be 100% true. But for those people who don't understand anything about Bitcoin or how to use Bitcoin, it's a little misleading, because if you just bought it as an investment, as in terms of like a stock per se, or an investment, like you bought something at this particular price, yeah, it is a worst investment. Now these are people who are strictly investing. In order to really understand the full potential, you have to do more than just investing. You have to actually use this Bitcoin, and I'm going to show you how you can use this Bitcoin. It's still investing, okay? If you're just looking in that kind of mindset, I'm going to go cover a lot of things. I'm going to cover using it as a payment instrument, using it as an asset, as an investment, and then also using it as well for your own benefit in terms of actually spending Bitcoins and then buying them back. So how you can utilize the use of Bitcoin and why it's so, um, well, at least for me, why it's more valuable than money and gold and all this other stuff. Because I think there's a lot of people who have a misunderstanding because you're only looking at a small sliver of how to use Bitcoin. You're not understanding the full potential of what Bitcoin is and how it can work for you. So hold on, let me cut out and I'll cut back in real quick. All right, sorry about that. Um, so basically, um, I've been mentioning how I'm starting to keep my gains in Bitcoin because as the price is really going down, and it's going down to, this is Bitstamp on the 12-hour. It's gone to 312. It's kind of popped back up. It went down today at around 307, which is low right here of 304. And you know, I'll get to the chart analysis a little bit later, but you know, um, people, and I've been reading about this being the worst investment. I've been reading what other people are saying, like there's people who just sell Bitcoin, the people who are suckers for Bitcoins, etc., etc. Those people who don't understand what Bitcoins are. There's people who specifically just buy Bitcoins just to sell them, and I think those people are the most, well, I wouldn't say the most foolish, but they're one of the most foolish. Um, there's a huge, tremendous advantage in using Bitcoin. Not just as an investment, where something you just buy and hold and then sell, or sell and then buy later at a lower price, etc. Which I kind of been mostly talking about. You can do that too, but you can go beyond that. I've talked about becoming your own merchant processor. I talked about performing arbitrage. Talk about selling and buying in the open market. I also talked about using Bitcoin. So as the price of Bitcoin goes up or down, whatever, etc., you can use Bitcoin to purchase things, and increasing your purchasing power. There's so many ways you can utilize Bitcoin, because it's not any one particular thing. It's all of those and none of those at the same time. And for people who understand that, and who truly understand the power, and how to harness that power, and how to use that power. You know, I can't stress enough about using Bitcoin, and being a user. Gives you tremendous advantage over anybody who is just, you know, selling Bitcoins or holding your Bitcoins or investing your Bitcoins or whatever. You know, it's for you. All right, it's for you, and you should empower yourself. And to empower yourself is also to understand how to wield your weapon, right? So you have to learn how to wield the power of Bitcoin. And you know, without understanding that, yeah, it's like the worst investment of the year, of all time, whatever. But if you understand how to use Bitcoin, you understand the price really doesn't matter. It only matters through an investing perspective, which I have been doing. For example, selling at a higher price and then buying at a lower price, thus giving me more Bitcoins to use. All right, that's the important thing. The more Bitcoins I have, the more I'm able to use Bitcoin at an exponential rate, versus having just one Bitcoin and just, you know, using that one Bitcoin. The velocity of the use is not quite fast enough, versus if I had two Bitcoins, I can, you know, transact twice as fast, so to speak. I could transact 2 times the amount versus 1 time. I'll give you an example. If I only had 1 Bitcoin and I'm only sending and receiving, just basically using 1 Bitcoin at a time, you know, that's just 1 times the velocity. Now if I had 2 Bitcoins, and now I'm able to send 1 Bitcoin and another Bitcoin, I would have 2 times the velocity, right? Well, what if you had 100 Bitcoins? Now you had 100 times the velocity. So if you understand that, you know, that's the important key, is the use of Bitcoin, not necessarily always the price. Um, so that's what I'm. Well, that's my opinion about it, and that's why I've been trying to keep my gains in Bitcoin, and I've been gaining and gaining. So as the price does go down, the value has gone down, but I've gained more Bitcoins in the process. So really, I haven't. Um, I have taken. I am taking quite a bit of loss because of the dramatic price decrease. I can't keep up with the decreasing price, but like I said, these these are all gains that I made. So essentially, there is no risk. At some point when you get into this game, um, that's when you're taking the most risk, because you are literally risking what you brought into it. But if you're able to play the game right, understand the game, and the first thing about this game is to understand that you're in a game. That's what I've heard. And once you understand that, you realize, wow, I really am in a game. Now I just have to learn how to play the game, right? So you have to understand some rules and how things work. That way you can plan ahead and utilize the use of Bitcoin. And so as I risk my gains, okay, and essentially there is no risk, I'm trying to make the best of it, because the more Bitcoins I gain, I I'm able to increase that velocity of the use of Bitcoin. And so the more velocity, right, the more gain. And that's the point. So some of the things you can do as you have more Bitcoin is you can leverage your use. So it's all proportional, of course. If you had one Bitcoin, you can just fractionalize that to a tenth of a Bitcoin and leverage it that way. But essentially, you're just trading one Bitcoin. So I mean, it's all proportional. You can fractionalize it and everything. That's what's kind of interesting. So you can start at any amount. I mean, you can start with $1 if you wanted to. It's just takes a very long time to make a substantial gain, but it's possible. Um, so that's why being a user is really the most important aspect of Bitcoin. Not to be money service business, or to be like a bank, or um, or whatever, to be an investment, company investing for others. That's just a partial. You're just barely tapping into the power until you fully utilize and accept what Bitcoin is and how it can work for you. I think you're just doing more of the same of what's already out there in the financial markets. You're just spinning your wheels. It's just with a different wheel, I guess you can say. Until you're able to really understand the complexity of how simple, at the same time how complex Bitcoin can be, I think most of you are just wasting your time. That's just my opinion, and I hope that this sheds some light. If it doesn't, it's because you're not using Bitcoin. You're I don't know what you're doing with it, but you're not using it the way I'm using it. Excuse me. And that's probably why maybe things haven't worked out, or maybe it has. Maybe it has. Maybe you've understood, the true amazing power of Bitcoin, and mainly because hopefully you're starting to use Bitcoin and understanding how it really works, how it really functions. Anyways, that's my opinion before I start my chart analysis. So, anyways, let's take a look here. Excuse me. And so I'm looking at the most recent 12-hour chart, and you can see it's been going down. And one of the things I'm looking at now is when I'm not getting clear signal, and I've already shown a chart of this going into a downward triangle, and I mentioned maybe around March it's going to break. It's going to be squeezed to a point where it's either going to go up or go down further. Um, Although it's been declining, I think the chances are it's going to be an upward climb versus a downward climb, but I'm biased on that. Anyways, one of the things I've been looking at, and some of the things you could look at too, is if you're not sure, add another indicator or some other tool that you can use to figure out how you want to trade this. And I've been using a MACD. This is just an example, and this is on a 12-hour. And the red show it declining, the green show it going up. It is a lagging indicator, so don't trade unless it's already happened, or if you want to take the risk in trading before it finishes, you can do that too. But one of the things I've been noticing is, and of course it's been doing that, is this is a little green, and you'll see it popped up a little bit, and now it's getting red, and you see that it's been red for a while. It doesn't mean it's going to be red, it just shows a weakness in it. And one of the first indications I saw of this before it showed up on Bitstamp or anywhere else was, believe it or not, on the Chinese exchange. And it's good to look at different exchanges because that way you can get a better idea. And in the Chinese exchange, let's see if I could show it here. Come on, focus. No, things never focus when you want it to. Anyways, you see on the Chinese exchange, it showed a little weakness before it showed up on the other exchanges. So that was one of the first clues I got that it might go down in price, in which I hedged myself in that regard. I didn't sell off any of my Bitcoins. I sold off the trading portion. I keep a certain amount that I want to trade, and then I keep a certain amount that I know that these are my gains in Bitcoin, so there is no risk for me. And I use those Bitcoins to perform arbitrage, and both in trading in the physical world and also trading through the exchanges. And when I do it through the exchanges, it's not a lot, but what it does do, it does diversify my risk. And when prices start to really fluctuate on the different exchanges for whatever reason, I take advantage of those fluctuations. And they're not a lot, you make what, 50 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, stuff like that. Maybe you make $1, $2. At sometimes you'll make, $10. Who knows? But here's, for an example, here's Bitstamp, Bitsy, Bitfin, and Hobu, and you'll see that there's a $2 difference in the price here. And if you had, I guess, Chinese money, you could arbitrage with a Bitfin or a Bitstamp exchange if you had an account there. You made what? Here you might have made a $2, maybe $2.50, if you, excluding all the exchange fees and everything. From here to here is what, $3.50. It may not seem like a lot, but in order to do that, you always have to have money and Bitcoins on each of these various exchanges to perform this arbitrage. And when I first thought about it, it didn't make sense because I didn't get up to the point where I had enough gains in Bitcoin where I'm risking my gains versus I'm risking my real money that I put into it. And after a while, you have an abundance of Bitcoin, and of course there's always an abundance of money. Between that, I mean, you can perform arbitrage. It's possible. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been only trading in a small amount, because if you look at these exchanges, and I'll give you an example here, you look at them, you'll see some of them are literally fractional. So if you're thinking that you can do this with 100 Bitcoins at a time, you're probably not, because you're going to get slippage which is you're going to drive the price up or you're going to drive the price down, and it's not going to be that price. You literally have to have just a very fractional amount, or if there's someone here with a big, with a very large limit order, you can try to do it that way. But usually, I usually pick a price where I want to be, and one of the things you can do is, I wait for a large enough gap. I try to wait for a $2 to $3 difference at any of these given exchanges here, or whatever exchange you're on, and so that if there's any fluctuations of volatility, I can absorb some of that volatility. If it works out for me, that's even better. And so that's one of the things about this. Now, if I right now I wouldn't say, like, if they're all almost at par except for Bitstamp, right now there's not really much to trade on because there's no much variation, and so I could tell they're balancing out a little bit. So I usually wait until things just start really going crazy, and that's the best time to perform arbitrage, but you have to be patient. And the other thing is, if you always have Bitcoins at any given exchange, that's free floating, so it kind of sucks to have your Bitcoins go down in value just to make a couple dollars. But remember, if you're a long-term investor, and if you're doing this long term, that's not an issue, because you're trying to gain in Bitcoins. And that's what you're doing. You're just slowly trading away, performing arbitrage, not for the money, but for the Bitcoins, to gain in Bitcoins. And that's kind of what I've been doing. A couple dollars, 50 cents at a time, whatever. I mean, for me, it's a long-term investment, and then at the same time, I can use Bitcoin as well in the physical world to perform arbitrage, or as a payment instrument, or whatever, or to spend, because I'm a user using Bitcoins. So that's I stressed it so much, to be a user. And so based on that, you can really make a small little gain, but if you do it enough times, they add up over time. And if you play it right, and if you're patient enough, what you're doing is you're absorbing all the Bitcoins, and that creates a shortage. And as the shortage in the open market becomes pretty prevalent, and you have the Bitcoins, then that's when you can start really trading. And you don't have to really trade for money. You can start really trading for things that you need in this physical world. You can trade for real estate. You can trade for services, for whatever you want to do in your endeavors. You can trade, just whatever you have in mind. Whatever you have in mind. Whether it's legal or illegal, depends who you are, but you can do things that go beyond this computer. You can bring it into the physical world and bring it to a physical reality. So it's not just the price of the Bitcoin, but it's actually having Bitcoin and understanding how to use Bitcoin that makes it so valuable. And so, as more merchants adopt the acceptance of Bitcoins, that just makes it easier for me to use Bitcoins. And then as more acceptance occurs, it's I don't know what's coming first, the cart or the horse, or whatever that is, the chicken or the egg, but something's happening, and then the other's going to follow. So if right now, if there's merchant adoption is outpacing consumer adoption, well, one's going to follow the other. So as consumer adoption increases, that's going to drive the demand. And if there's a shortfall in bitcoins that are in existence, wouldn't you think that that's um, wouldn't you think right now would be a great time to actually start absorbing all these bitcoins that are flooding into the market? And when I say flooding the market, I'm talking about from here to here when the auction occurred. And there's going to be several planned auctions here. So as each auction occurs, I think there's going to be a price that's going to be driven down. It's going to probably go back up, and it's going to be driven down. So you may be seeing a range for a while, but that is extra bitcoins that's being flooded into the market that I'm willing to absorb, because long term, um, for me, it's like I'm making a gain without really doing anything. Yes, I'm buying it, and yes, I'm selling it, but at the end of the day, I mean, did I really do anything? Not really. And here I am absorbing these bitcoins, and I think in the future it's going to pay off. Not necessarily in a form of, am I going to cash out for money, but in a form of use, the increase in velocity that allows me to make a gain. And so, in that regard, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here. And for those who are foolish to just be buying and selling without really making any gain other than a monetary gain in whatever currency that they're trading in, I mean, you're no better than where you were before. You just have more money, which is great, but it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't really free you from your enslavement. It just puts you more into slavery, if that makes sense in any way. For me, Bitcoin frees you from that, and it empowers you. It allows you to flow in and out of whatever system you want to be in at free will. Whether it's in the physical world or in virtual reality, you can just free flow of your own free will into different, systems. And so, and you can create your own. So that's, for me, that's what's empowering. That is what the true, for me anyway, that's the use that I'm utilizing it, to free myself. It doesn't keep me captive in one system or another system. It allows me to free flow into all of these systems, and none of them. And I guess for those who understood what I said, I mean, that should be very enlightening. For those who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, well, get yourself a Bitcoin and start using it. Start learning. Let the Bitcoin teach you the way. All right? And so that's about it. Anyways, I guess you're wondering where the price might be going in my chart analysis. Okay, so in my chart analysis here, I've already mentioned from my previous episode that it's ranging. If you want, the way I'm looking at it right now, I think there's a chance, just because I'm seeing all these, and this is on the Chinese exchange. This is the first indication that it's probably going to be going down here. It's been following this 10-period average, not being able to break above it, and so as this slowly just makes its way down, you could probably see a breakdown. And if you see the chart or the previous episode that I've done, where I show you the downward triangle, it may hit at the bottom of that triangle, but there could be a chance that this is going to be very small right here, and that it's going to start increasing, going up, because in this particular chart here on Bitstamp, okay, so I'm going on Bitstamp, and this is on 12 hour. I'm going to go to a day. Let me see, was it Bitstamp or was it Bitfin? I think it was Bitfin. Sorry about that. I'll check it out on Bitstamp too. Let's see if it does that. So let me see here. If you take these two lows, the most two recent lows here that shows up, you're seeing something like this. And it's pretty much hitting the bottom of this here. And we'll see if it takes a little bounce upwards and see how far it goes. Remember, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm following the highs, the high, the high, the high, the high, the high, and then the high, and then as I'm following the highs, as I'm trailing it, I'm gonna let that be my buying signal. So if it's able to break above the last high, or at least this notable high right here, if it's able to break above that, that's when I know that there's a chance that there could be possible breakout going up. And so when I see a breakout on that, I'll usually wait until it comes back down, then I'll risk purchasing Bitcoins. You know, I don't know where the bottom is, but I'll purchase it when it comes back down, because usually when there's a breakout, there might be it might hit back down a little bit. You know, it's better than buying here, here, here. If you just bought here, and then as you know, that's when I'm taking a risk to have it go back up. But anyways, as you see, I made these two recent lines here on a daily, and if you go back and you pull back to a 3-day, it's really showing, it's literally showing this as a support here, and it's looking like this is a really good support because it's coming down from here and it's making this nice beautiful line, which kind of makes sense, and even hits down here to this 100. That may be an oversell, but the fact that it does go through, so you're seeing now a nice little slow and steady upward support. And if you want to make a couple more lines, you can do that as well. Excuse me. You can come down here, and now you start making some more lines. And I've shown you this downward triangle here, and make a triangle up here, and you can kind of start seeing something here. So now that you know, you're getting different time frames as well. So if you look at this time frame, you know, you can see that it's let me see what time frame. Well, it could be now until this particular time frame here, out here. What day is that? What day is that? They're going to show January. Sometime in January, or the end of January, you could see a breakout. So anytime from here, talking about here to here, you could start seeing a potential breakout or a breakdown, and then the breakdown would be this right here, this particular line. So basically you're going to see a potential breaking out while it's being squeezed in here, and then a potential breakdown, and where this is the support, which is almost down to 200. So there's a couple scenarios here for you to look at. This is just long term. Watch for it. If it starts breaking down, look for this being the next support. If it starts hitting up against this, there's a chance for a breakout, or just more ranging until it gets squeezed into this triangle here, and that won't happen until January for the most part. So we're getting really close. Anyways, this is my quick chart analysis. Hopefully all of you you know, learned something from this. Feel free to comment, like, dislike, even leave a video response. Until next time, stay tuned. Bye.